Hello, my name is Jason McIntosh, and I'm the gifted coordinator for the Avondale Elementary School District. I've been the past president of AAGT and worked in the field of gifted for over 20 years now. I'm here today to share with you some lessons that I've learned over the years, but I wanted to make it a little bit more engaging by using a metaphor. I think that will be a little fun, but still allow us to learn a lot about quality teaching in the gifted classroom. So I decided to call this presentation, How to Be a Drag Superstar in the Classroom. And I'm sure many of you, when you first read this description, you wondered, what is this about? Why is he talking about drag? And should this be a part of a conference for educators? And is he a drag queen maybe? What is this all about? Am I going to get beauty tips? Why drag? Well, drag is become more and more popular in the last few years. The popularity has largely been fueled by RuPaul's Drag Race. And because of the wide appeal, it becomes a perfect metaphor for teaching with, especially adult learners. I found this great quote by Rose Hendricks, and it says, analogies link two topics in order to bring attention to some of their commonalities, and metaphors are one way of using analogy in language. In most cases, metaphors describe a more novel target, drag, an abstract concept that we can't see, touch, or experience physically by linking it to a familiar source or concept. And the concepts we are linking it to have to do with quality, research-based techniques for teaching students in the classroom, and in particular, gifted students. Is this appropriate to talk about at a conference? Well, I would say absolutely, especially in the field of gifted education. Our claim to fame, so to speak, is talent development, and this is definitely a field where you can see how practice pays off. It may take a drag queen a decade to become excellent at what they do. Plus, drag is meant to be fun, and that's what I wanted to use this for as well, to make this a fun presentation, but to help us look at some serious things and realize that drag is really meant to help us not take ourselves so seriously, so we can have fun while learning. Now, how can you learn from RuPaul? Because as I mentioned, RuPaul's Drag Race has really fueled this popularity in drag. Well, I would say, based on my experience, that RuPaul is a master teacher. And you're going to learn why yourself if you don't already know during this presentation. But let's look at some of his more famous quotes, and you'll see what I mean by him being a teacher, by him making us think about the world we live in. So here are a few. We're all born naked and the rest is drag. If they ain't paying your bills, pay them no mind. So he really does coach people on how to believe in themselves and how to sort through what's important and what's not. What about this? Fulfillment isn't found over the rainbow. It's found in the here and now. Today, I define success by the fluidity with which I transcend emotional landmines and choose joy and gratitude instead. There's a lot of wisdom there. I love this too. Racism has nothing to do with race. It is the ego's way of making you feel better than. That's a really profound statement if you really think about it. And this, I love this, and I try to live my life this way. What other people think about me is none of my business. Another great pearl of wisdom. Some of you were thinking, does this mean he's an undercover drag queen? No. If you take a look at the screen here, this isn't the extent of my drag experience. So you be the judge. Do I have a future in drag? I wish. I'm not so sure. As far as beauty tips, you're going to get one. And here it is right now. You only have one face. Take care of it. And that's from me. That's a quote from me. And for your beauty tip here, especially for men, these are some of the products that I use to clean and take care of my face and moisturize and protect from the sun. So that was just a little pearl of wisdom. Women, applies to you too. Take care of your skin. All right. So now on to the important pieces here. One of my most loved teaching strategies for gifted students is the Kaplan depth and complexity model. And what you see below are the 11 icons that Sandra Kaplan developed to help us think deeply about something. Well, I'm going to use those here to help build some background about drag for those who are unfamiliar with it, about RuPaul's Drag Race, and things like that. So what's the big idea of RuPaul's Drag Race? Basically, if you've ever watched the show, you'll know that there are 13 queens from across the country. These are novice drag queens, I guess you'd say, who compete for $100,000 in the title of America's Next Drag Superstar. The rules of the competition are below here. They compete in one mini challenge and one maxi challenge in each episode. At the end of each episode, the queen who performed the best is pronounced the winner, and the bottom two are forced to lip sync for their lives. The winner of the lip sync will stay in the competition, and RuPaul says the following phrase, "Shantae, you stay." And the losing queen will be asked to sashay away, and they have been eliminated. And the competition continues until there are only 3 or 4 queens left. And then in the last episode, the viewers at home vote to determine who the next drag superstar is, as well as RuPaul names Miss Congeniality, the most kind, caring, and loving contestant that performed or participated in the competition. Language of the discipline. There are quite a few terms that are used in drag, and many of them were born on RuPaul's Drag Race. I have them on the screen for you. I've already mentioned Shantae, you stay, and sashay away. But another two that you really need to know the difference between is a read and shade. We're going to get into that a little bit later here, but a read is basically where you are very honest with someone and you criticize them in a fun way, pointing out their flaws, but so that everyone is in on the joke. And shade is where you criticize someone, but it's done hidden within a more amorphic comment. So it's not necessarily obvious that you're criticizing them. You have to read between the lines, basically. If you want to pause this video and read through some of these terms. Another icon is across the disciplines. And this is basically where you're connecting science with math and social studies or language arts, or you're pulling in different domains into one, which automatically raises the rigor. I did come across this fun little challenge here. It's combining drag and RuPaul with physical fitness. And so there are some challenges here. Whenever Michelle Visage, which is one of the judges, laughs, do 10 burpees. Or whenever someone lip syncs for their life, then you have to jog in place. You know, just a fun way to enjoy the show and get some physical fitness. And I'm also sure you're wondering, is he a super fan? Well, I will leave it up to you. I'm going to show you the data and you decide. A super fan is defined as a person who has an extreme or obsessive admiration for a particular person or thing. So some trends and the data for me are here. I've watched all 14 seasons of the American edition, all 6 seasons of Drag Race All-Stars. I watched every iteration around the world, as you can see, even the new Queen of the Universe, which is an actual singing competition for drag queens. So if I were to guess, I would say, yes, I'm a super fan, but I'll leave it up to you. Patterns. Patterns are cycles or things that repeat. And based on my watching this show for 10 years, I have identified some patterns, and the purpose of this presentation is really to use these patterns that I observed, but connect them with the classroom, okay? So here we go. So we're going to use drag as an acronym. The first letter is D, And I'm using this as drop dead gorgeous outfit. That is what the D stands for in drag. And here's some examples. We've got some, they use the term eleganza a lot in drag. This is Sasha Velour, Simone, who was season 13 winner, and Jinx Monsoon. Very elegant, beautiful looks. There's another path that drag queens often take, and it's called camp. And this is where they look nice, they look pretty, but they're trying to be funny at the same time. So we've got a Sea Monster by Acid Betty. Sharon Needles is being a woman who's undergone plastic surgery. And then Rajas is dressed up like Carrie in the Scary Movie. But there are queens who combine the two. Priyanka, she looks very beautiful, but then she turns it into camp when the second set of arms raises behind her. And Denali, she looks beautiful, but she's also dressed up like a chandelier. Each runway on RuPaul's Drag Race has a theme, and those themes might be Night of 1,000 Rus, where they have to dress up like an iconic RuPaul outfit or look, or the Redemption runway, where they've worn an outfit on the runway that was panned, necessarily mocked, but it wasn't that good, basically. And then they get a chance to redo that look and come out again in a more beautiful, refined outfit based on that not so great look. Mermaid realness or black and white drama or best drag, all of these are themes that you might see on the show. The same is true of quality curriculum in that it's organized around a topic or theme, a concept, issue, problem, process, or phenomenon. And these themes in curriculum should be themes that are worthy of time and effort. That's just the students will spend exploring, engaging with that topic. Some of the ideas here, these big overarching concepts for curriculum might be courage or perseverance or nature or survival. That the possibilities are really limitless. But the reason why these concepts, these themes are important is because they serve as the organizing center of the unit. They hook the learner and they create appeal. As soon as a beautifully dressed or funny outfit comes out on that runway, it does catch your attention and makes you want to pay attention to what they're doing. This organizing center fosters interdisciplinary investigations, and it gives students something to attach new schema to. This new knowledge that they're learning, they're attaching it to something that they can see, something that's more tangible that they're possibly familiar with. My preferred higher level process is problem-based learning. And at that wheel that you see here is a wheel that demonstrates the three components of the integrated curriculum model. Concept-based learning, that theme for the runway, that theme for the unit, the higher level process, and then advanced content. So problem-based learning, it's different from project-based learning in a few subtle ways. If project-based learning is done very well, it's almost indistinguishable from problem-based learning. But the danger of project-based learning is that the students become wrapped up in the project that they're creating, and they lose sight of the learning, the theme, the problem that they're trying to solve. And problem-based learning forces you to refer back to that problem repeatedly by looking at a messy situation and going through it, finding out information, and creates a need to know in students. All of those are reasons why I really love problem-based learning. And why PBL too? Both project and problem, well, they teach the content that students are supposed to learn just as well as the traditional method, but there are two added benefits. Students who participate in PBL see greater increases in critical thinking and in motivation. So in my opinion, PBL is truly iconic. Here's an example of a challenge that you might see, a runway challenge on RuPaul's Drag Race. So remember, the D stands for a drop dead gorgeous outfit, right? Well, sometimes RuPaul asks them to make their own outfit out of unconventional materials. This is the sewing challenge. This example is from an episode from an earlier season where they had to make haute couture, beautiful outfits out of balls of all shapes and sizes. It's a perfect problem-based learning, project-based learning task. Kettler places authentic engagement at the highest level of curriculum design. And being forced to work with a novel situation, it really does require you to use your learning in new ways, and it demonstrates that transfer of learning that we all hope our students exhibit. Our students do this in a classroom. The queens do this in the workroom, W-E-R-K, the workroom. The steps in problem-based learning are on your screen here. The first is to engage with an ill-structured problem. And this ill-structured problem is they're in a room full of balls and they have to turn that into an outfit. Inquiry and investigation is step number 2. And that's where they start choosing, they experiment, they play around with things, they decide what they're going to make their outfit out of. Step 3 is to really define the problem. And in this situation, it's finalizing the materials and a concept or design for their outfit. Then the next step is problem resolution. So that's creating the final outfit, and problem debriefing. At the end, the participants are judged on their outfits and given feedback. So like I said, a perfect example of PBL. Any fan of Drag Race knows that if you're going to go on Drag Race, you better know how to sew. And I found this Van Tassel basket quote, and it kind of speaks to that mentoring aspect of Drag Race here. Students cannot be left alone without support and the skill development and content knowledge needed to create a meaningful product. And so ultimately what we want to do is, as students are developing a skill or a talent, they need some support. They might need some sewing lessons. They might need a tutorial to get them started. But once they've got it, let them go, get out of their way, and see how far they can go on their own. Now, during these challenges, RuPaul serves as a perfect coach or facilitator. He walks around and asks questions, he probes them, he gives them feedback, but not enough to tell them what to do or steer them in any one particular direction. Because in the classroom, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to become a facilitator, right? An organizer and a manager. The teacher should be detached from the activity, observing from an unbiased point of view. We need to let them try and fail and get back up again and try again. And then, as I mentioned, the last step is the evaluation piece. But as we're working with our students, they need to know what you expect of them. And with gifted students, what we really should hold up as the standard for evaluation as the practicing professional in the field being studied. Now, if you're working with creating a dress, right, an outfit, then your standard would be Vogue or, the runways of Paris or a fashion designer. Those are the standards that we're looking for, right? And then that feedback piece, the judges provide feedback at the end. And what we see here is a great way to apply that to the classroom. One of the most impactful actions teachers can take to improve learning is to provide feedback. Feedback fuels learning, and it really does. As you'll see if you watch the show, sometimes a queen will create this outfit. They think it's absolutely beautiful. They go out on the runway, they get their feedback, and then they realize, oh, maybe I should have thought about that. Maybe I should have had a higher heel, or maybe I should have made this a little bit more form-fitting, or maybe my padding was off. So that feedback does truly drive the learning. And when you do see the results of all your efforts, you work hard, you put your heart and soul into it, and you see this amazing dress possibly that you've created, that increases your motivation. And I would say that you should always listen to expert feedback. RuPaul's been a drag queen for over three decades, and this is a funny instance I put on the screen here. One of the contestants, Valentina, was wearing a mask. During the lip sync, RuPaul asked her to take it off. She said, "I'd rather keep it on, please." She didn't take it off, and she was ultimately eliminated. You will sashay away. But that feedback from an expert is important. We do that for our students. We've gone to college, we've developed and honed our ability to learn new information and learn skills. Our students, we are to support them and give them feedback so they can do the same. But like I said before, allowing them to fail and make their own decisions. It's better that they fail in your classroom than in the real world where the stakes are much higher. At the very end of the entire competition, there is a moment where RuPaul has them reflect on their journey, why they should win, and she even holds up a picture of them as a child, which you see in the picture. What have you learned about yourself? And this is a great quote here. McNair talks about reflection is not the same thing as remembering. True reflection is exemplified by pondering mistakes that were made, recognizing misconceptions that were corrected, and making connections between concepts or content that seem unrelated to the untrained observer. All right, so that is the dress. Now the R in the word drag stands for a stunning reveal. Here are some examples. We have Brooklyn Heights from Canada. We have Violet Chachki transforming her outfit, and Katya demonstrating both her boy side and her girl side in one outfit here. But there are more than just clothing reveals. There are wig reveals. Roxy Andrews, a wig under a wig. Sasha Velour, when she won her season of Drag Race, pulling off her wig and underneath being dozens and dozens of flower petals. And Monique Hart, once again, a wig under a wig. And there are other types of reveals. This is one of the most poignant reveals I've ever seen. It's a beautiful dress Simone, who won season 13, walking down the runway like a beautiful lily. And then when she turned around, it said, "Say their names," and with 2 bullet holes. And she recited the names of those who have been killed by police officers. Now, a parallel to the classroom. Here we go. What we can do is we can withhold some important information from students until the right time, just to create a little drama, a little suspense, and force them to do a majority of the thinking. And it also can be throwing a curveball. They've been going down one silo of thinking, and then you give them new information. Oh, wow, we have to course correct over to this direction. And what we want to do is keep students on their toes. This is Brooklyn Heights, literally on point in one of her performances, as she is a professionally trained ballet dancer. Here's an example of how you, in the classroom, can muddy the waters. So we have a traditional task. I want you to research the duties and responsibilities of a paleontologist. And when you've done that, I want you to create a PowerPoint or poster to show what you discovered. There's no ambiguity here. It tells you exactly what you're supposed to do. It's very well defined. But it's more exciting here. Let's take off that wig, is to embed that task in a messy problem-based learning scenario. So in this scenario, the students are told you are now a part of a paleontological dig. You're going to join this dig for a week. You must read through the rules and regulations, sign the health forms, and complete many of the documents, as you are going to be traveling to Montana and participate in Saddle Creek's Dino Adventure. So now they have to sort through all of the mess, all of the data, and figure out, okay, now what is my real task? We can go even further than that. So let's change that outfit, a dress under a dress. Now we can introduce some new information. They are told, uh-oh, you're on this dinosaur dig, you're at the excavation site, and you found this amazing fossil, but it's on federal land. What does this mean? How is this going to have to change your approach to digging up that dinosaur? So that kind of upends the process. And if you don't know, federal land means you can't touch or remove any of these fossils. They need to be left alone right where they are. You have to report where they were found, and a whole nother set of laws and rules come into effect because of the Antiquities Act that was established way in the 1800s. Okay, here's another example of how we can apply this reveal to our classrooms. We can dig deeper, a wig under a wig under a wig. Digging deeper here, let's say the wig that's on the outside, that's one discipline. Let's say that's science. I'm going to teach science. Well, now I'm going to take that wig off and I'm going to go deeper. So we're going to learn about science and math at the same time. But then I'm going to take that wig off and I'm going to now learn about science, math, and ELA all at the same time. I automatically made that much more challenging and more rigorous, and actually a lot more beneficial for students. Let's try another example here. The outer wig could be the curricular content as is, as the standard has it written, as the textbook has it described. The first reveal could be to enrich it for those kids who are ready for more, or making it into a choice board or a passion project. And the second reveal could be accelerating it for those kids ready for acceleration using maybe curriculum. One of the most anticipated reveal is on the very first episode of every season. When the queens are being introduced in episode 1, they come out fully decked out in their best drag. That's how they see each other for the first time. After all the queens have been introduced, they go back into the workroom and they begin to D.R.A.G. And for the first time, they see each other out of drag. So this is Maddie Morphosis, in drag and out of drag, one of the contestants in the current season, season 14. This can be quite revealing as far as who do they think their competition is going to be. Oftentimes, contestants are really surprised at how the other contestants look like outside of drag. And so as I'm thinking about this reveal, taking off the makeup, taking off the fancy clothes, I couldn't go on without addressing the social emotional side of our students. And there's really two examples of this reveal. The first is with LGBTQ youth. Many times the young students, young kids, many times gifted students in particular, feel that they have to be completely transparent with everyone about who they are. And I attended a session, I believe it was Alina Treat at NAGC many years ago. And if it's not her, I apologize to whoever it was. They talked about Russian nesting dolls and how we can explain to students who may be coming out or going through this process and explain to them that you don't have to let everyone into that innermost doll on the inside. You can decide which doll you're going to let people see based on your own safety, based on who you can trust. And it's just a great analogy, I think, for coaching students dealing with this. And the second is the imposter syndrome. Many drag queens on the show are very confident in drag. They are super confident, super amazingly talented. Take off that makeup, take off that dress, and oftentimes they're meek and mild and insecure. And I think that the label of gifted can sometimes be like that. You know, we on the outside keep up appearances that we're perfect, we're talented, everything is good. But on the inside, we fear making mistakes, or we feel like people are going to find out we're not who we say we are, and we have to protect our egos. And So it's just something I think many people deal with, especially gifted kids. We compare ourselves to everyone else's highlight reels, but we don't see the behind the scenes side. And that's what I have here on the slide. So we've got D for the drop dead gorgeous outfit, R for the reveal, and the A is for the attitude of a queen. Here's some examples, some fun examples here. Raven's here saying, I will work it, I'm going to do it, I believe in myself. RuPaul in an acting challenge, just showing off her diva side in a pretend smackdown. And Jinx Monsoon, she says, I'm a star. Queens are confident, elegant, brave, and never give up. So too should teachers be in the classroom. And here we go. Alyssa Edwards saying, I don't get cute, I get drop dead gorgeous. Even in defeat, when we make mistakes, we need to be confident and secure. Get back up again and try again. This is Miss Vanjie. She is famous for being eliminated on episode 1. She's the first queen to ever walk backwards on the runway and saying her famous catchphrase. And as a result of this moment, she became an internet sensation, became super popular, and RuPaul asked her back the next season. And now she is one of the drag superstars, all because she didn't give up in defeat when she was eliminated. She took it as a moment to shine. What is RuPaul looking for in a drag superstar, in an attitude? He's looking for charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. And once again, using the Kaplan icons, those are the details of a superstar drag queen. Charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. Now, in the classroom, do you demonstrate charisma? We work in a caring profession, right? Just like doctors and other health professionals. Are you warm and welcoming? If you're having a bad day, do you let your kids see that and pass that negativity on to your students? Do you use humor to bring your own interest into the classroom, to teach with a perky pace? Now, are you a leader at your school, and do you encourage leadership in your students? One of the statements I've heard, and you probably have too in the past, don't do anything for your students that they can do on their own. They can be the leaders. They can run a majority of the classroom tasks instead of us doing all the work. Speaking of leaders, this is the Leader in Me framework developed by Stephen Covey. Leader in Me is a wonderful program for schools to teach teachers and ultimately students how to be leaders. And there are certain paradigms that are involved in this process. We have to believe that everyone can be a leader. Everyone has genius. Change starts with me, right? That we should empower students to lead their own learning, and educators and families should partner together to develop the whole person. Year 1, that's what you focus on if you're implementing this as a school. Then comes year 2 and year 3, where you delve into how to pass on this knowledge after you've learned how to exhibit it in your own life to your students. Uniqueness, let's move on here. Do you demonstrate divergent thinking through unusual or clever ideas in your lessons? Do you make unexpected or imaginative connections? And do you create your own materials and modify resources available to you and make them your own? Drapeau says that imagination sparks innovation. Creativity helps us to produce ideas. Innovation allows us to both generate and apply creative ideas in a given context. And I like this. Innovation begins with inquiry and ends in action. Inquiry is something we dedicate a lot of time to in our classrooms, to let students do their own inquiry. And RuPaul really is one of the most innovative people that I know. She's not only a drag queen, but a singer, an Emmy-winning reality show host, a movie star, a conference organizer. You didn't know that? There's 2 drag cons every year, one in New York City and one in LA. He's a chocolate bar maker. He's a producer. He's a writer and a model, amongst other things. In my opinion, innovation, the formula is B plus C squared plus M plus P. B is blue sky thinking. That is believing that no matter what, nothing can stand in my way. Then there's creativity, mistake making, and the P here is perseverance. It's not giving up. Whatever you do in your classroom, do not give your students more of the same. As you know, give the students need different work, not more of the same. Keep the pace quick and lively, and engage them in interesting activities. Moving on to nerve. Are you a risk evader in the classroom or a risk taker? Are you comfortable being vulnerable with your own colleagues? Do you admit it when you need help or when you've made a mistake? I recently made a very embarrassing mistake. I posted it on LinkedIn, actually. I was the pronouncer for the district's a school spelling bee here in my district in Avondale. And I accidentally pronounced the word contraption as contraception. It was quite embarrassing. I quickly corrected my mistake, but had to deal with quite a bit of red-faced embarrassment and get myself back on my toes there to finish the spelling bee. Do you underplan it on purpose in order to allow room for students to take charge of portions of the lesson? It takes nerve to turn a lesson over to the students because you don't know what's going to happen, right? You're giving up some of the control, but that's so important. Do you create big goals for yourself and your students? That takes nerve. And I would say, as you see in the yellow box, I really I wouldn't say agonize, but I really had to think hard about whether or not to do this very presentation because I feared how it would be perceived by others. It took some nerve. All right, and then as far as that goes, if you've not read Hattie and Zair's book, 10 Mind Frames for Visible Learning, you should do it. They talk about collaborating with others, about your progress and your impact, striving for challenge and not merely just doing your best, and engaging as much in dialogue as monologue, letting the kids talk in your classrooms about the learning. And then we have talent. Are you a lifelong learner? Do you continually seek to develop the craft of teaching? Do you have high expectations for your students? Are you a treasure hunter, constantly looking for talent to develop in your students? I love the Kids at Hope program. Are you a treasure hunter? And this is a pledge that you take. As an adult and a treasure hunter, I am committed to search for all the talents, skills, and intelligence that exists in all children and youth. I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions. All right, so we've got the Drop Dead Gorgeous outfit, we've got the reveal, we've got the attitude, and now we need the G, which is a gag-worthy performance. Here's some examples of some great performances. We have just a beautiful presentation on the runway, Shangela doing a death drop or shablam, and D.R.A.G just giving it her all in her lip sync. Drag Race puts contestants through a series of challenges designed to give them a wide variety of experiences and opportunities to practice, stretch themselves, and demonstrate grit. These are very difficult challenges. And that made me think of talent development. This is a model of talent development that Paula O'Kay and many others subscribe to. I just took it and made it into a format that would be easier to understand for some people, and that's cooking. We have the potential to make a great meal by these ingredients that we put together, and ultimately we want to move from that to competence, where we can make a pretty good cake, to expertise, we make an amazing cake, and then ultimately, even more than expertise, we want kids and ourselves even to contribute to a field in a creative, productive way. And how do you move from one to the next? It's through opportunity, effort, practice, and time. Giftedness emerges through interactions of innate abilities and experiences. This is from Paula O'Kay and her colleagues. And that's such a true statement. These contestants that are on the show, some of them that start out very poorly in the beginning, maybe episodes 1 and 2, they grow over time, and by the end, they might even win. They grow so much. Oftentimes that's because they've never engaged in these tasks before. They've never had the ability to put forth a lot of time and effort into their drag. And what we know from research is that in the classroom and with talent development, it's not just about classroom achievement. Just because someone doesn't have wonderful grades or they might not even appear gifted, it's not necessarily that they have a lack of ability. They need more opportunities to learn, especially culturally and linguistically diverse students. So these opportunities to learn are the challenges in the show. One of the questions, and students automatically want to know, is what are you going to learn today, right? What's the objective? What is it that I'm going to be required to do? So having that clear learning target and intention and objective is very important. So how does RuPaul introduce one of these challenges? Through room mail, and that's how room mail was born. He shows up on the screen dressed as his drag persona, and he gives them a very cryptic description of their task, what they're going to have to do. Then the screen goes black, and he gives them time to think about what it could mean. Then he walks out onto into the workroom dressed as his male self, and tells them exactly what the challenge is going to be. He does clarify and give them information, but that moment where they get to ponder and think about what the challenge could possibly be is important, and we can do that in our classrooms. Some of the challenges that they participate in almost every season, of course, you got the lip sync. It's what drag queens are known for, and this is kind of a non-negotiable thing here. All drag queens need to know how to lip sync well. We have non-negotiables in our classrooms, but as you know, our students are ready for more than just the non-negotiable regular curriculum. There's also something called the photo shoot, where they are put in unique, interesting, awkward scenarios, situations. They have to be elegant and look beautiful while they're in this awkward situation. So in one case, they're dropped into a vat, a big tub of water. And another, they're having big tennis balls thrown at them, but they have to look beautiful and maintain composure, right? And what we know too is that this photo shoot is often the first time that the queens really get to compare each other and see what they're capable of doing. The person who wins that photo shoot challenge becomes a threat to the others. And our kids will develop their academic self-concept, not just by their grades, but also by comparing themselves to others, right? So we need to be keen observers and encourage a growth mindset and support social emotional learning in our classrooms at all times. And there's the musical. That's where people come together. They perform a musical as a group, and it's called the musical because the theme of the musical has something to do with drag. The needs, interests, and readiness levels of students are key, right, in the classroom. It's extremely important to set the tone of the classroom and build a culture of risk-taking and collaboration. This is important that they learn to work together, not just apart and against each other. Then there's the snatch game, where they have to participate in a faux game where they have to pretend to be a famous person, a celebrity. And many times these queens have never impersonated someone before. So they have to experiment with ideas. And at the end, when they reflect, they might think, I think I would be a great Lady Gaga. So they create the Lady Gaga outfit. Then they go on the show, on the snatch game. They do horribly. Then they reflect, I didn't do so well. I'm not going to be Lady Gaga anymore in the future. Then there's the commercial, where they have to brand themselves and sell something. That what they're really selling is themselves, right? And learning must relate to living and surviving in the real world, and even in the classroom. We have to imbue our students with confidence and help them prepare them for the real world. Just like RuPaul, he says, I've been discriminated against by white people for being black, by black people for being gay, by gay people for being too femme. Did I let them stop me from getting to this chair? No, he didn't. And our students, we can model that for students. There's the roast, where they have to perform a comedy challenge. They have to write jokes and perform it in front of a live audience for the first time. So changing that audience and making it live affects the task. It raises the rigor and makes it a lot more meaningful to the learner, because all of a sudden, wow, there are people who are going to be watching me, not just my teacher. And it changes the amount of thinking involved too. There's the puppet challenge. They have to take a puppet, drag it up to look like one of their fellow competitors, and then perform a little skit. As I always say on the show, everybody loves puppets. And our students need to learn how to be an individual and think for themselves and know that they're nobody's puppet, right? What they've done in the past, their past does not determine their future. It's an important thing to remind students of. Then there's the makeover challenge. This is where a friend or family member, or even stranger who's not a drag queen, is invited on the show, and each contestant has to make them over in drag and help them look like they're a member of their drag family and teach them how to perform for the first time. And so this made me think of using our powers for good. And our students who have amazing gifts can share what they've learned with others to help make the world a better place. The Girl Group Challenge. This is where small groups are formed. They sing and choreograph a number together, and they're judged as a group this time instead of individually. Many drag queens are fans of girl groups, like the Supremes or Destiny's Child, because they're independent women. They have each other's backs and they're there for each other. And our students need to feel that we're there for them. They have a support group, whether it be friends, family, whoever. And then there's the reading challenge. The reading challenge is where you, like I said at the beginning, you point out someone's flaws in a dramatic, lighthearted way, but everyone's in on the joke, right? Many gifted students find receiving criticism to be very difficult and very hard. And that's something we can coach them, and that criticism is meant to be helpful, but we can help them deal with that perfectionism when it rears its ugly head. Some example reads are, you have a girl that could put Black & Decker out of business, talking about one of the queen's teeth here. Jujubee, this is my all-time favorite. Legendary? Looks like legs and dairy. And Bob the drag queen, when she heard Britney Spears, she said, does she? I prefer fencing. We always have to make time for reflection and feedback. Reading is what? Fundamental. Unanswered questions. This is a really important icon. If you have unanswered questions, I want you to email them to me. And I'll show you my email in just a second. Here it is. But before we go, I do want to remind you, as RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how in the heck are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here? You are important. You are valuable, and having a good work-life balance is key for a healthy teacher. So remember that. Take care of yourselves. And the library is open, meaning I'm prepared for you to read me. Here's my email and my website. I want your feedback on this presentation. Remember, D stands for Drop Dead Gorgeous Outfit. A is an attitude of a queen. The R is a reveal, and the G is a gag-worthy performance. And I'm going to play a song. If RuPaul was here and she's going to perform a song, I would say this is probably what she would play, because you are a champion as a teacher.